as such which is happening in day-to-day life, it does not cover it. What it says that if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, then you are discriminating. So, pseudo is brought into effect and a judgment comes, then it will be looked at as a harassment and it will be a legal offense, and so you can be tried, right. So, this is a discrimination is an enacted stigma, that is what ultimately it is. So, that is where the whole issue boils down to, that we may fight against discrimination, but we still may not be able to take out the stigma that is there. And that is also the whole issue of what I call morality and ethics. We may become very ethical in terms of learning that these are the 10 things that I must do in order to do ethical research. But when I am out of my research setting, I do not mind discriminating. I do not mind saying that, well, a lower caste person cannot enter my kitchen. Okay? My daughter cannot marry for man from the other religion. Right? So, all those things we keep. But as far as I am a doctor, any religion person coming, I will treat equally. Right? So, this is a kind of a split personality that all of us have. Right? This is what ultimately ethics tries to make you. That if you are pursuing this profession, then you must do this, but outside it, no problem, right. So, this is so we have to ensure that we just try to meet both of them. We live a kind of a Hippocratic life that we, I think, get out of it. So, when we talk about ethics, we also have to examine our morality. So, ethics is nothing but science of examining not only ours, but the entire society's morality. That is what ethics is, bioethics is all about ultimately, if you look at from the philosophical angle. So, that I think we should keep it in mind, and then all these issues will start coming in very easily, and you will not have to make a real effort. What stigma does to the affected individual or community? What happens? You are stigmatized. What happens to you? Can lead to feeling of guilt, shame, and spoiled identity. If I am a leprosy patient and I am stigmatized, you will find that my personality will change. And there is a whole movement of HIV positive people, fighting for the right, is for the dignity ultimately. The basic thing that they are talking about is dignity, saying that we do not want to be discriminated. Why should we be discriminated? And I will come on this stage and say that I am positive and I will fight for my right to be recognized as equal. I think this is something new that happened in last 20 years, but it was not there earlier. I think that is where that you have to overcome it. If I am a nurse, so what? Why can't I? I am also a professional. Why should I always be subordinate to doctor? Why my view cannot have equal meaning in the hospital setting where my major job is to care for the patient? This is a very, very important area. I mean, that is how you are going to overcome the what I would call institutionalized gender differentials within medicine. Whether you are man or woman, but if you are a doctor, you are a masculine. And all women are in nursing and they are all feminine. And so there is a real gender differentiation. You will find that the sexual division of labor is highly institutionalized in medicine all over. So this is a very, very important thing, that looking at your identity and saying that I don't have to feel ashamed of what I am. That is where may increase the stress associated with it. A lot of studies have been done that when people are stigmatized, how psychologically they feel and what kind of morbidity it gives. It may also threaten personal identity, social life, economic opportunities, and all kind of stuff. I remember early time when I was doing research on leprosy, you go to the village and even if a person who is afflicted by leprosy is your husband, will be staying outside of the village in a hut, but not with the family. This was I'm sure it is still there, but in 1980s when I did studies on social aspects of leprosy, this was what I had observed. They get marginalized, they get ghettoized, very, very important. The ghettoization of minorities connected to the communal rights is also related to that. Vulnerable to physical and social attacks. Paradoxically, they internalize it. They start believing. I have seen leprosy patients, they start believing that, yes, I should not touch anybody. You talk to untouchables. he will take 100 types of care to ensure that he doesn't touch the another person of the higher caste. He said, oh, why should I create harm to that person? He will have to go and take bath and all kind of stuff. And so they start internalizing that I am different and I should not be mixing with the people. Often the socially vulnerable are stigmatized. The social attitude towards them make them more vulnerable. So this is a last slide. Disease and stigma is another area. Whether or not the patient is held responsible for the condition. Very, very important. If you believe that this disease is caused by your wayward behavior, then it is easy to stigmatize that person. And that is what we in sociology, social science, we call it victim blaming. You go and stand for say 1 hour in labor room of any of public hospitals of India. A woman who is undergoing childbirth will always be blamed for creating problem for the doctors at night when you have to get up at a late night to do the delivery. So this is and it's there too. I mean the leprosy, you say same, you can say that in HIV/AIDS. So victim blaming, sometimes stigma ascribed to controllable factors elicit greater negative reaction than the stigma ascribed to uncontrollable factors. If it is uncontrollable, then say, oh, what can we do? No, that person is helpless. There will be less stigma as compared to the controllable factors that this person did not control and got the disease. Another area, if you are studying diseases, keep it in mind that you don't stigmatize sections of the population. That happened to the truck drivers and commercial sex workers in HIV research. So this is a very, very important area. You make people vulnerable, you know that they are vulnerable and you want to study them because they are suffering from something. You come out with your finding and you make them more vulnerable. The challenge is in intervention that some of my observation that I just wanted to put in. So there are lot being said that if you have good communication with people to educate them about the disease and all kind of stuff. We also believe that those who are educated have less stigma and those who are average people, uneducated, they have more stigma. But the whole thing is totally opposite. It's not that by giving more information to the people about a disease, the stigma declines. I did leprosy research at a time in 70s and 80s when there was a lot of concern about tuberculoid leprosy. Because everybody knew about lepromatous that, oh, there is a disfiguration and all kind of stuff. So immediately they are identified and all. So there was a massive campaign that a small thing, patch can be leprosy. Please go to, so-and-so center and get your chest checked and all. So suddenly people started knowing that, oh, patch can be leprosy. And that really made life of so many leprosy patients who had kept their thing, their status confidential, coming into. So more the people who educated people, more they knew about leprosy and more discrimination and stigma that they had. And that was what was my finding. I did a 4-district study in Maharashtra in a high endemic district and low endemic district. And high endemic district I found very low stigma as compared to low endemic. And among the educated I found the highest stigma. And one of the findings which was very, very surprising and led to a lot of problem with the medical professional was that the doctors that I interviewed, all who were involved in leprosy work, had higher stigma against leprosy patients than many of the lower level workers in the organization. It was very, very shocking findings that I had. But it's very, very important that mere education does not make you more human. It is a human education that makes you human. So you have to, what you learn has to come in the practice. And if both these things remain separate, then we have a fantastic knowledge, but we have a very different behavior coming out of it. So it's very important that we understand both power, what power does. Power should be used very judiciously and right way for the people, but power and relationship exists. And unless you recognize it, you will not recognize the rights of the people who are powerless, and you will not do enough to ensure that those who are powerless in relationship with us, they are empowered to a certain extent in order to give them autonomy for decision making. The autonomy comes from that recognition, not by just taking the signature. That is not sufficient. We have to, as a part of research, also make them I think a slightly at a higher level, build them at the slightly higher level than where they are. So, I think that is what is any questions?
With anesthesia, I know one community which does not have an enzyme in that, and you give that drug to them, they'll die.
Absolutely.
So we need the community at least for certain reasons. It's not that we have to take
the
out
issue is,
on what
differentiate
context you are
between
using.
these two. A compulsory disclosure of community when you are registering for care is definitely very coercive and sometimes insulting and embarrassing, as compared to when they come to the medical professional for care. You finding it out in order to ensure that you are giving right kind of care is two different
No, it's only
aspects.
an experience because one patient refused to give the community and the anesthetist went in for trouble.
No, you have to explain that, okay, I'm going to give you anesthesia. There are this kind of thing that can happen, and this is very, very prevalent in certain communities. Are you part of that community? Because that question you will have to ask. But if you make, like say, if people are asked to disclose how many kids they are having in a public hospital in order to get good care, then there is going to be a problem. It's going to be very, very insulting, isn't it? Same way it is there. So, compulsory disclosure of certain kind may be a problem. Voluntary disclosure may be acceptable to the larger people, but doctors have a complete absolute duty to look into those issues when they are interacting or you are doing research with them.
Thank you, sir. I think we stop the discussion here.